Hi, I'm Sally Oxley, one of the owners of the farm that Johnny Cash owned for over 32 years. We're going to give you a little tour of this today. We're standing right now in the dog trot space of the original 1837 log cabin home. Johnny Cash acquired this through an unusual circumstance. His bookkeeper was using Johnny's funds to buy properties in his own name, and this was one of those. When Johnny found out, he retrieved it, and the others he sold. But this one, when he came to it, he went upstairs. The caretakers told us he went upstairs, jumped a couple times, came down and said, "This one's not for sale." And that was in about 1972. So again, we're standing in the dog trot space of the 1837 log cabin. On either side there are two rooms about the equal size, and upstairs there's two bedrooms. And in this room there's a couple of interesting points. We'll start with the oil painting over here of Johnny Cash. That was originally owned by a friend of my husband's, and it was in his office in Chicago. And Brian saw the painting and he asked, "Okay, who's this?" And he said, "Johnny Cash." And then Johnny's music was sent to Brian, the American series, so that he could listen to it. And then Brian fell in love with Johnny's story and the music. So we didn't expect that we would be ending up with Johnny's farmhouse, which was part of the journey that came along a little bit later. But as you're looking at the mantelpiece, that was a scratchboard piece of art that Brian had commissioned by an artist friend of ours, and it's called Johnny's Three Loves. June represents his love for family, the guitar represents his love for music, and the Bible represents his love for God and the Word of God. We are told by the caretaker, who's still living, his name is Luther Fleener, he took care of the farm the whole time Johnny had it. We're told by him that Johnny used to sit in this corner over here, and he would often shell his peanuts and just would like to sit and look out this window. Also around the fireplace, the metal piece at the base there was original, and Johnny used to crack his black walnuts on that. There's a lot of black walnut trees on this property. So as we go through one more story, that's kind of a fun story in this room. His daughter Cindy Cash told us this story. It was the day her father taught her how to shoot a gun. And they had come in from the outside, and they were sitting here, it was getting dark, and Johnny said, "Do you want to practice?" And she said, "It's too dark outside right now." And he said, "No, I mean in here." So he shot a hole in the bullet, shot a bullet in the ceiling up in this area over here. Let's see if you can see it. At that time there was drywall, so the bullets had to go through the drywall. That's why the holes are not all that big. And then he said, "Let's see who can get a straight line." So they took turns shooting, and each about 5 or 6 bullets. And Cindy said she won, and then she said her dad said he's a good teacher. So that's kind of a fun story in this house. And as we leave this room, you'll notice that we have a couple signatures here. This is Garth Brooks' signature and his wife Tricia Yearwood. They were here for a wedding. Garth was a groomsman in a wedding for a friend of his, Mitch Russell, who's a singer-songwriter himself. So we'll pass through the dog trot space. And the only thing I'll point out here, which is a little bit dark, is the cabinet. In this cabinet, there's a pair of Johnny's boots, but all these keys were collected by Chance Martin, who traveled with Johnny for 7 or 8 years as his stage and lighting manager, and he collected hotel keys. And then this was Chance's guitar case too, that he collected stickers along the way, kind of showing in the history of where they traveled, the cities they were in around the world. We'll go into this space here. In this room we have the original Knotty Pine kitchen cabinets that were actually in that location, and this cabinet here was Johnny's also. He had it here at the farmhouse. They probably used it as a china cabinet. The other furniture in here, this table, which actually is an antique writing desk with 2 large drawers over there, was we were told by one of his daughters it was a side table in their kitchen in their main home in Hendersonville. And then the 2 carved chairs, one on either end, were used in their bedroom, but they also had about a dozen of these chairs that were around their dining room table, all a little bit different. So European carved furniture. In the window here we have some old glass bottles that were actually found on the property. Johnny liked to metal detect and dig around, and his daughter Cindy loves to also. And in their process of digging, they found a lot of these old bottles. And Cindy said they sat in the window here for those 30 years that Johnny had the property. I like to point this poster out because I don't know how many people have seen The Gospel Road, but Johnny and June did this film on site in Israel in the 70s, I believe around the mid-70s. And you can download it off of YouTube, and I highly recommend it. The music is great. These are some of their clothing items. This was a performance dress that June had, and she gave it to one of her nieces, thinking that it might make a beautiful wedding dress for her someday. You can see some other items that, actually these 2 items came with the farmhouse. When we bought the farmhouse, they were items that somebody by the name of Francis Lyle, who's staying with the Carter family, had received from June. And so they left these with the farmhouse when they sold it too. We'll move right into the kitchen, and now we're leaving the original farmhouse part of the house. And this addition was here added in the 30s. And this would have been a dining room area when it was added. And the next room was the original kitchen when it was way back when it was added. So you can see the chimney for the old wood-burning fireplace stove. Now here on the wall we have handwritten lyrics of the song Saturday Night in Hickman County that Johnny Cash wrote for this county. You can also hear that song on YouTube. We were told that he stocked the pond and tried stocking the pond and would fish here in the early years. So there are a few pictures of him. And the caretaker said one time he came out here and Johnny was out there with the couch. He had moved the couch out there and was fishing from the couch. Another story the caretaker told us was he showed up at the farm and he saw a tent in the big field out here, and there was no car around. So he went up to the tent and called out who's in there. It was Johnny camping on his own property, but he had hidden his car somewhere. So again, these are the original knotty pine cabinets that were here when Johnny had the property. And we're moving down to his bedroom, which when this addition was added was actually a kitchen. But when Johnny got it, this was his bed. He kept this as his bedroom. And in this room, this chest of drawers was actually his. He just had a big old king-size box spring and mattress. He didn't have a fancy bed for the most part. And from family members, it said it just filled the half of the room here. Those are his shoes and slippers. And then we have a number of pictures with Johnny and Cindy, because Cindy has stayed here a number of times. And that is Cindy's dress that she wore as in performance with her father, and you can see a picture of her. And this oil painting was done by his daughter Kathy for her dad, and there's a picture of when he received it from her. Again, you can see the chimney was here too, so if this was originally a kitchen, that was also a connection for the wood-burning fireplace. All of the Reader's Digest books were left here. This is an interesting little diorama piece that Kathy put together with all of her sister's pictures as like a little Valentine card for their dad. And the caretaker also said not only did Johnny like to shoot the real guns, he had some cap guns and often would sit on the porches with his cap guns. You can see this is the bathroom. The original fixtures are here. There's a tub behind the door. And up here we have some pictures as a tribute to his first wife, Vivian. and their daughter. It's in the top picture, the first 3 daughters. That was before Tara was born. And then another picture is they're all grown-up young ladies. So we'll go on back down to, oh, actually, let me point out this jacket. This was a Chance Martin's jacket, and this was his jacket he wore when he traveled with Johnny. So he added all these interesting badges that he collected along the way as memories of where he had been with. We get souvenirs from some of Johnny's fans from different countries, and especially from the Netherlands. We get a lot of fans of Johnny's from the Netherlands, so we've got souvenirs from them on the windows. This is an interesting piece here. This was a collage done by Wayne Brzezinka, and my husband commissioned it. And a lot of the items on it were items that Johnny had, like the gun belt, and a shirt, one of his Manuel shirts, and then a watch that he gave his mother. And the artist did a wonderful job of portraying just the tension of light and darkness, you know, with the struggles with addiction and just the struggles we all have in life with the tension between light and darkness. And here's an interesting local Hickman County, and this is the Weems place right here from 1837. So that was the original cabin looked like when it was. So here we're moving into the only room that Johnny added. When he got the farmhouse, this was a lean-to shed, and here's the photo of what that looked like. But because he liked to read, he had a local man from Centerville come and add this library for him. All of the paperbacks were left here in boxes when John Carter sold the property, as well as these VHS tapes of some of Johnny's shows. And then we have a bottle from Bon Aqua bottled water. This area has a lot of natural springs, and so there was a bottling company at one time of water. Okay, so this chair here was left here by John Carter when he sold the properties. This was Johnny's recliner. Probably, and we believe it was mostly in that other room by the window where he used to like to sit. So you can see it's well loved. This is kind of an interesting piece. This little speaker came from the old church in Memphis, where Johnny and the Tennessee Two did their very first concert in a basement. There were 6 of those little speakers, and a gentleman who was a friend of the man who bought the church donated those to the museum here, to the farmhouse. These 2 chairs were in Johnny's home in Hendersonville. I'm not sure what part of the house they were in, but you can see there's a picture with Waylon Jennings and his wife, and that was a sobriety party they had for Waylon. And it looks like Willie Nelson gave him a set of braids for the celebration. This shirt was Johnny's, and from Jamaica. It's got his initials. That picture of Jesus was up there when they sold the property. There's Johnny's shoe, that representative of how often he would come out here without his key and have to kick down the door to get in. There's another scratchboard piece of art called Hurt, and it represents, you can see his house in Hendersonville burning, and then a broken guitar, and he's looking towards his heavenly home. There's a lot of things I haven't shown you today. There's 107 acres here of a lot of natural beauty. Because of the coronavirus, of course, the museum has been closed, and we're waiting on the government to decide what we need to do, and also just personally trying to decide how to regroup and what's going to happen once everything's open up again. So, but we love sharing this place with people, and just keep posted as to, once we know what some of the guidelines are, we'll be making announcements as to what the next plans are.
On behalf of all the storytellers at Oxvision Films, I invite you to click now and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Thank you so much for watching.